Greetings and salutations. This is Jason Miko bringing to you an audio version, the spoken word, of my weekly column on Macedonian matters. The English version is published on Medium.com, and the Macedonian version is published on Svest.mk. This week's column, which is published on Monday, March 11, 2019, is titled Greek Propaganda, Lies, and quote-unquote Artificial Concepts. Here's a riddle. How do you reconcile with and deepen a friendship with a people you consider to be an artificial concept, quote-unquote? Actually, it's not a riddle. It is simply not possible, humanly, spiritually, intellectually, or in any other way, to reconcile and be friends with someone or some group you consider to be an artificial concept. Unless, of course, you yourself agree with them. You actually believe you are an artificial concept. More on that point in due course. This is what the Greek government has declared, quote, "Against this historical backdrop, the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia proclaimed its independence in 1991 by predicating its existence as an independent state on the artificial concept of the quote-unquote Macedonian nation." In a way, it's good for them to have put this in writing for the entire world to see. Macedonians and those who follow Macedonian affairs have always known this, but the Greeks have done us a small favor by putting it in writing and making it official, as this statement, part of a longer statement, comes from the Greek Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So, with that attitude, I say bugger the current government of Greece, bugger past governments of Greece, and for that matter, bugger future governments of Greece. And for good measure, bugger the professional elites in Greece who inhabit the media, academia, think tanks, culture and entertainment, and elsewhere who perpetuate this outright lie. They want reconciliation and friendship with Macedonia and the Macedonians? You can't have it with the people and nation that you declare to be quote-unquote artificial and quote-unquote a concept. Granted, there are Greeks who do not believe this, and good for them, but they are too few. Look, we all know that the Greeks are morally and fiscally bankrupt. They almost brought down the EU and the euro, and the silly and frankly stupid EU officials bent over backwards to keep them in, because keeping them in perpetuates the myth of the ever-expanding EU superstate, a sovereign European Union which sucks the lifeblood and sovereignty out of the individual nation-states in service of a priestly class of politicians, unelected and unaccountable bureaucrats, and professional elites who believe in the perfectibility of mankind, with them engaging in social engineering to achieve their utopia with massive amounts of public euros. Back on point on those Macedonians who, quite obviously, wholeheartedly agree with the Greek Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Yes, indeed, they seem to sing. We are an artificial concept, so by all means, please continue walking all over our prostrate backs with your boots. This includes, it should go without saying, Nikola Dimitrov, and the entire government of Zoran Zaev, which is the way the Greek MFA identifies him, and his SDSM party, and their pick for president of Macedonia, Stevo Pentorovsky, together with their murderous partners in Dewey, led by the terrorist Ali Ahmeti. Quote, "The rebels are a bunch of murderous thugs whose objective is to destroy a democratic Macedonia," unquote, George Robertson, NATO Secretary General, BBC, May 7, 2001. Dimitrov and Zaev, in particular, are well versed in the art of kowtowing before their Greek overlords. Dimitrov's latest act of self-flagellation occurred last week during a border crossing ceremony where he dutifully stated, quote, "It is my pleasure that we signed the agreement to open the Markova-Noga-Lemos crossing in the Prespa region in 3 languages, in Macedonian, Greek, and English," unquote, and added, according to media reports, that the, quote, "Macedonian language is spoken by the citizens of the Republic of North Macedonia and our diaspora and is not related to the Greek Macedonians as provided in Article 7 of the Prespa Treaty," unquote. That's pathetic. But Dimitrov knew he had to say it, as his Greek handlers were present and standing next to him, and if he did not, they would scream bloody murder, and then refuse to cooperate on some little matter or make some move that would signal their displeasure with the quote-unquote artificial concept. If Zoran Zaev and Nikola Dimitrov and all of the phony crew in the current Macedonian government believe they were actually Macedonians with a long and rich history and culture, they would not be demanding and forcing various institutions around Macedonia to drop the adjective Macedonian from their title, such as, to take but one example of many, the Macedonian Information Agency, which is soon to become the nondescript National Information Agency. The problem is, and I wrote about this last June in a column titled, "Of the Republic of North Macedonia is not an adjective," the Greeks interpret Article 1F as just that, and the Zaev government apparently agrees. So, in the above case, the Macedonian Information Agency would, under PRESPA, have to become, quote, of the Republic of North Macedonia Information Agency, unquote, or alternatively, quote, Information Agency of the Republic of North Macedonia, unquote. Either way, the Zaev government admitted to itself that that was just too embarrassing, so now it is dropping any reference to Macedonian, the proper adjective, and sticking with the characterless and rather dull National Information Agency, which is a total capitulation. These people, and I can barely use that word, are nothing more, nothing less than shameful cowards, lacking a spine, and much else, interested only in the fleeting, illusory, and temporary prizes and praises handed down to them from on high by the Pharisees of the West. So, the government cannot say or write or use the proper adjective Macedonian, but that is just one example of the rapid crackdown on free speech brought to us by the so-called PRESPA agreement. Another example of that crackdown can be found in the private sphere. If some Macedonian says or writes, quote, the Greeks are petulant, swarthy turds, and does it in from Macedonia electronically or otherwise, then under the agreement, see Article 6, the government will be obliged to hunt down that individual and prosecute him. Now, I'm not advocating calling the Greeks anything but what the facts dictate, but in a free society, people should have that right, and that right to speak freely is far greater, far more important than their so-called right to be free from being offended. There is no such right to not be offended, but that is what the EU is moving toward in its pursuit of so-called hate speech, of which there is no such thing. I should add my standard caveat here. Just because you have the right to say something doesn't mean you should say something. Responsibility and prudence should be the rule. One more thing before I wrap up. The Greek MFA did not have to publish that note, but they did it anyway, gratuitously, in an attempt to humiliate the Macedonia and assert that they had the biggest swinging genitalia in the entire region. How sophomoric. But that's the Greeks for you. Enough. I can't wait for Macedonians who believe in Macedonia and will advocate for Macedonia and the Macedonians to come back into power. It can't happen soon enough. In the meantime, it is up to Macedonians, everywhere they live, and their friends to continue supporting, promoting, and nurturing each other, the Macedonian nation, the Macedonian language, culture, history, heritage, and everything else that makes Macedonia and the Macedonians unique. I know Macedonia can do this, and I know the Macedonians can do this, because I have seen the Macedonians rise to the occasion before. It's time to do so again. I leave you with two thoughts. Number one, there are more good things in this life than you can possibly imagine. Number two, the proper attitude is always gratitude. Thanks for listening.